Welcome to On to Better Things, the Portland chapters. I'm your host, Frank Culbertson, and this is the podcast that looks back at the wrestlers who came through the Portland sports arena on their way to bigger stages. From brief runs to breakout moments, we tell the stories of how Portland shaped wrestling history and the names who moved on to leave their mark across the world. In March of 1982, a young wrestler named Tommy Rogers arrived in the Pacific Northwest. He had been wrestling for only 5 months. He was green, quick, and full of energy. Rogers was slotted into the preliminary babyface role, an early proving ground for many who came through the territory. Now, there were rumors floating around that Rogers was somehow related to the Sawyer brothers, Buzz and Brett, and that connection supposedly helped him get booked in the area. Whether that's true or not remains unclear, but Rogers quickly proved he didn't need family ties to stand out. During his year in the Northwest, he picked up wins over names like Tiger Chung Lee, Mike Miller, Dizzy Hogan, Tiny Anderson, and Chris Colt. He stayed nearly a full year before heading out to new opportunities. A few years later, Tommy Rogers would achieve national fame as one half of the Fantastics, alongside tag team partner Bobby Fulton. Together, they became one of wrestling's premier tag teams, beloved for their athleticism, charisma, and an unforgettable feud with the Sheepherders. Rogers' life and career had highs and lows, but his time in Portland marked one of his first real proving grounds. In the mid-1970s, few wrestlers embodied toughness like Siegfried Steinke. A mainstay in Vancouver from 1975 to 1976, Steinke captured the Pacific Coast title twice and the Canadian tag titles 3 times, twice with Dale Lewis and once with Gene Kaninsky, his mentor and friend. He also wrestled 6 matches for the Portland office during that time, including one unforgettable bounty hunter tag match with Mad Dog Vachon against the Royal Kangaroos. In a later interview, Steinke described the chaos of that match in vivid detail. "I was waiting in the dressing room when Mad Dog started staring me down. He never said a word. Then just before we were to go out, he charged across the room and smashed me with a forearm as hard as he could. I hit him back, 2, 3, forearms each, and he just growled and led the way to the ring. The match started in the ring but ended in the crowd. Chairs, garbage cans, concession stand junk. Everything was flying. I don't remember all the details except that no wrestling holds were used." Steinke returned briefly in 1976, beating Johnny Eagle, and had one final Portland match in 1979 against Adrian Adonis. Reflecting later, Steinke said, "It was a great territory. I probably should have gone there full-time after Vancouver." After wrestling, Steinke took an unexpected turn. He became a college tennis coach at Texas Lutheran University. He passed away in 2012 and is remembered fondly as one of wrestling's colorful journeymen. In 1973, another young wrestler made a brief but significant stop in the Northwest, Larry Whistler, who the world would soon know as Larry Zbyszko. He arrived in Vancouver that May, working preliminary matches for about 5 months, and came down to Portland a few times in June and September. His recorded results show a draw with Haru Sasaki and losses to Greg Valentine and Al Madril. Even then, you could see signs of the intelligence and timing that would define Zbyszko's later career. Larry became the protege of Bruno Sammartino, a storyline that mirrored real life. He learned from the living legend and built his career around that mentorship until he turned on Bruno in one of wrestling's most famous betrayals. The feud between Sammartino and Zbyszko culminated at Shea Stadium in front of over 36,000 fans, cementing Zbyszko's place in wrestling history. Now, Portland was only a footnote in the story, but it was one of the early places where Larry Whistler learned to be Larry Zbyszko, the man who would later call himself the living legend. 3 stories from 3 different eras, each proving how deep Portland's influence runs. Tommy Rogers, the young babyface who went on to national fame as one half of the Fantastics. Siegfried Steinke, the hard-nosed Vancouver mainstay who brought chaos to Portland rings. And Larry Zbyszko, a future legend who sharpened his early skills here before making history at Shea Stadium. They're all part of the long list of wrestlers who came through the Northwest before moving on to better things. This series is based on the Encyclopedia of Portland Wrestlers by historian Mike Rogers, and it's available now on Amazon. I'm your host, Frank Culbertson, and this has been On to Better Things, the Portland Chapters. Be sure to follow the show on Spotify and Apple Podcasts so you don't miss a single episode. And new shows drop every Friday.